Hello and welcome to Pass the Turn. This is another deck tech episode, and today I'm going to be looking at one of my favourite commander decks, which I've only played about 4 or 5 times, but every time I've played it, it has been utterly fantastic. Awesome interactions, and it just pops off every time. It's very stormy, and no pun intended here, but this is Etali, Primal Storm. Very stormy deck, Etali Primal Storm. Etali, I'm saying it in Japanese now, Etali. So he is a legendary creature, Elder Dinosaur. So he's a 6/6, and he costs 2 red and 4 others to bring in. And whenever he attacks, exile the top card of each player's library. You may cast any number of non-land cards exiled this way without paying their mana costs. So that is utterly horrendous. Now this deck is all based on giving Etali haste and swinging in and doing extra combats, copying the extra combats and doing as many combats as possible to get as many triggers of Etali as possible. So I'm stealing everyone's stuff. And on a 4-player game, not only do I get to exile the top card of my library, which is also going to be more value and more gas, but it's going to be exiling other people's things as well, and I can use that stuff against them. You know, it could be a removal spell, a board wipe, an equipment, an instant, a sorcery. It could be anything, and I get to play it as a result of attacking with Etali. I'm going to do a future video on identifying what kind of Magic the Gathering player you are, but I think I have evolved into a more of a stormy sort of player, just playing a ton of spells off the top of my deck, or drawing loads and loads of cards, so I have loads and loads of gas. So I'm just a gassy, stormy player. But yeah, Etali Primal Storm is the commander, and I love this card. It's great. So I'm just going to go through my deck tech in no particular order, and there is one more card that I'm waiting for to go in this deck, which I'll get to when I get to the card that's going to be replaced by it. And I think it's the top card, maybe. Who knows, but I'll get to the card that I'm going to be adding shortly, which is in the post, later. So the first card in the deck is Mirari, a legendary artifact that costs 5, and when you play it, whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, you can pay an additional 3, and then if you do, you can copy that spell and choose new targets for the copy. So that's really good for copying all of my extremely amazing, valuable instant and sorceries in this deck, which we'll see later. Next card is a card called Dismissive Pyromancer. So he's a 2-drop, costs 1 red and 1 other, and he's just a looter, basically. So he allows me to discard a card to draw a card. So this is just a little card draw engine early. And then you can also pay 2 colourless and 1 red and tap and sacrifice him to deal 4 damage to target creature. So a bit of removal on there. Maybe getting rid of people's mana dorks or troublesome creatures. So that's Dismissive Pyromancer. Otapek Huntmaster. So he is in here. He is a haste enabler. So he enables Etali haste. So he costs 1 red and 1 other. And he also says dinosaur spells you cast cost 1 less. So it reduces the cost of my commander to 5, which is awesome. And then he can give target dinosaur, Etali, haste until end of turn. So that's awesome for getting out Etali and getting those swinging triggers in as soon as possible. Possibility Storm. This is ridiculous. If I've got Etali out and all the equipment and stuff that I need to utilise Etali, I can just keep swinging in and exiling cards at the top of people's libraries, and then this is just creating chaos everywhere. There's just reality is just shifting around us, and it's just creating absolute madness at the table. No one can play a strategy when Possibility Storm is out, and when it's out, unless it's countered or what have you, it's ridiculously hard to remove because they can't cast a spell that they want to cast. So basically, whenever a player casts a spell from his or her hand, that player exiles that spell. So you could play a lightning bolt, and then it will just be exiled and turned into something else. So whatever strategy you have in mind, forget it. It's not happening. So that player exiles that spell, and then exiles cards from the top of his or her library until he or she exiles a card that shares a card type with it. And then that player may cast that card without paying its mana cost. Then he or she puts all the cards exiled with Possibility Storm on the bottom of his or her library in a random order. So it's absolutely outrageous. Let's give you an example. So when Possibility Storm is out, I play an Unstable Obelisk. The Unstable Obelisk will disappear into the void, and then I will exile cards from the top of my library until I exile a artifact card, and I'll play that instead. So it is absolutely outrageous, and it just screws with people's strategies, and that is what I like about Possibility Storm and Etali in general. Getting on to the next card that I just spoiled in that Possibility Storm explanation is Unstable Obelisk. This is just a little mana rock that has a destroy target permanent attached to it, which is very, very useful in mono red, because mono red doesn't have much removal. Next is a card called Generator Servant. Again, a little mana dork that allows haste to be given to any creature that Generator Servant assists. So basically it costs 1 red and 1 other. He's a 2/1, and he can be tapped and sacrificed to add 2 colourless to my mana pool. If that mana is spent on a creature, it gains haste, so it gives Etali haste, which is why he's in there. This is a great card, and every mono red deck has to have it in here, and that's Cough of the Hammer. This is a awesome Planeswalker. Costs 2 colourless and 2 red, and he can +1 untap target mountain. It becomes a 4/4 elemental, which is still a land until end of turn. -2 is ramp in red, which is ridiculous. Add 1 red to your mana pool for each mountain you control. So that's just a mana doubler, basically, for a -2, which is horrendous. I played this on my last game, and it enabled so much antics. Cough is awesome. And then if you get to his -5, you get an emblem with mountains you control have tap. This land deals 1 damage to any target. So yeah, it's madness. Cough is awesome, really, really good. And he was actually part of the Koth versus Venser dual decks that got me back into Magic with my good friend Josh, which you would have seen on the channel at some point, back in 2012 when we were living in Bristol. So it's good to have that card finally doing bits in an Etali deck, which is probably my favourite deck at the moment. Next card is Mind Claw Shaman. This is just a bit of fun, really. So he costs 1 red and 4 others. Vaishino Shaman. So he's a 2/2. When he enters the battlefield, target opponent reveals his or her hand, and you may cast an instant or sorcery card from that player's hand without paying its mana cost. So again, just stealing other people's instants or sorceries and using them against the table, and also screwing with other people's plans and using their own cards against them, which is great. Next is Thaumatic Compass. So this is a 2-drop artifact which allows you to search your library for a basic land and put it into your hand. And if you control 7 or more lands, it then transforms into the Spires of Orkazra. Or Azka, should I say, and that taps to add 1 colourless to your mana pool, and you can untap target attacking creature an opponent controls and remove it from combat. So it's basically like a Maze of Ith. Turns into a Maze of Ith. So that's really, really awesome for stopping combats late game and stopping creatures from attacking you, because they'll just be removed from combat. See you later. And also the land grab on Thaumatic Compass is also mono red ramp, so that's good. Gutter Snipe is awesome because I'm casting a lot of instants and sorceries and potentially copying them with other things in a deck as well, like Mirari that you saw earlier. But Gutter Snipe, whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, it does 2 damage to each opponent. So just a bit of value, an early drop 2/2 as well that can just dish out a lot of surprising damage. So Gutter Snipe, great card, little goblin in there as well. Next card is Combat Celebrant. So this is an extra attack enabler. So this costs 1 red and 2 others, and he's a 4/1. And if Combat Celebrant hasn't been exerted this turn, you may exert it as it attacks. So you would attack and exert it, which means it doesn't untap during its next untap step, I think exert means. When you do, untap all other creatures you control, and after this phase, there is an additional combat phase. So you get 2 attack phases with Combat Celebrant, which enables Etali to do more ridiculous triggers. More ramp is Worn Power Stone. Great little mana rock for any sort of deck really that wants more ramp. Comes into play tapped, but then adds 2 to your mana pool, so it's a great investment. Worn Power Stone is in a lot of my decks actually that are mono at least. This is a great card, Stolen Strategy. So this is an enchantment, again another ridiculous enchantment, which draws a lot from Etali himself actually. So this costs 4 colourless and 1 red. At the beginning of your upkeep, exile the top card of each opponent's library. Until end of turn, you may cast non-land cards from among those exiled cards, and you may spend mana as if it were any colour to cast those spells. So that's ridiculous. If I got Stolen Strategy out, I exile the top card of everyone's library. Whatever that card is, it's going to be exiled. It's going to the void. It's going. See you later. So if it's a Nicol Bodas or God knows what, it's exiled. But I can cast it as if it was mono red. So it's just awesome. It's removing threats from your opponent's deck. It's stopping them from playing their cards, but I can play them instead using only red mana as a source, which is fantastic. Great flavour for this deck as well. Next card is a bit of mono red permanent removal in Chaos Warp. So this costs 2 colourless and 1 red. The owner of target permanent shuffles it into his or her library, then reveals the top card of his or her library, and if it's a permanent, they put it onto the battlefield. So again, it's a bit risky because it replaces permanents with permanents depending on what you're targeting. I could even target myself if I wanted to for a bit of chaos, just to see what comes out. But it is mainly in there to remove a imminent threat and replacing it with something hopefully less disgusting. Another card, Molten Primordial. This is interesting. So this is a 6/4 avatar creature with haste, and he costs 7, so 2 red and 5 others. When he enters the battlefield, for each opponent, gain control of up to 1 target creature that player controls and until end of turn, and untap those creatures, they gain haste. So it's a really good card for, again, stealing other people's creatures, and it's got a bit of an insurrection vibe to it, where you can steal other people's creatures and use them against the opponents, which is great. This could be replaced potentially. Devil's Play. I've played it once. It's all right card. It's basically just a little target removal or just blazing someone in the face, really. So this is 1 red and X, and this deals X damage to any target, so target creature or player, or any target was the Oracle text, and it can flashback itself as well. So I think that's why it's in here, is because it's basically 2 forms of damage removal or Planeswalker hate, basically. So yeah, Devil's Play potentially could be removed, but we'll see. Next card is Solemn Simulacrum. So this is a nice little artifact creature golem, costs 4 to bring in, and when he enters the battlefield, search your library for a basic land, put it into play tapped, and when he dies, draw a card. So just value for any monocolour that's looking to ramp and draw cards. Great card. This is an awesome card, this next one, and it installed Anarchy at the table, and it has recently been reprinted into a uncommon, I think in M20, and that's Dragon Mage. This is a commander version, I think, which is actually rare. But Dragon Mage, I think, is now uncommon. But he's ridiculous. So he's a 5/5 flying, costs 7, 2 red and 5 others. Whenever he deals combat damage to a player, each player discards his or her hand and draws 7 cards. So again, it's just screwing with your opponents, and it's not really harming me that much because my deck is pretty much all gas. And if Etali is out, it's just gas, that card. I can just discard my hand. Sometimes I might not even have a hand because I'm top decking or what have you, but Dragon Mage just instilled chaos upon the table. Each player, whenever it deals combat damage to a player, each player discards his or her hand and draws 7 cards. So even the people that haven't taken the damage have to discard their whole hand. I bet they're well pissed off. Dragon Mage is flying over there to attack Matey Boy, and then as a result, I have to get rid of all my spells in my hand. What's that about? Absolutely outrageous. Dragon Mage, great card, massively underrated. It costs a lot to get out, but when he does, instilling Anarchy, that's what this deck's about. Next card, Hammer of Porphyros. So this is a haste enabler. 2 red and 1 other. Creatures you control have haste, and then if I want, I can sacrifice a land and put a 3/3 golem enchantment artifact creature token onto the battlefield. I don't really use that ability, the artifact creature golem, but it's just another haste enabler. I've got a lot of haste enablers in this deck, so maybe a haste enabler could come out with the card that I'm planning to put in this week. So leave your comments in the section below if you think any of these cards could be removed, instead, in spite of the card that I'm getting soon. So next card is essential in this deck, and that is Strionic Resonator. So this basically just copies Etali's ability. So this is an artifact, costs 2 to bring in, and you can pay 2 and tap it to copy target triggered ability you control. You may choose new target. So when Etali attacks, I can copy it with Strionic Resonator, and I'll exile 2 cards from each player's library, and I may cast them that turn without paying their mana costs, which is outrageous. Absolutely outrageous. Little enchantment card, Sea Red, another card that could be potentially removed from the deck. It costs 1 red and 1 other, but it is quite cool. It is quite cool. Enchant creature gets +2/+1 and has first strike. So again, it gives Etali a bit of more protection. So it pumps him up to an 8/7 with first strike, which is great because he'll hit whatever is attacking him first and hopefully not take any combat damage as a result of the first strike. And that's why it's in here, because it gives +2/+1 first strike, bit of protection for Etali, and it's ridiculously cheap for what it does. It does have a downside where at the beginning of your end step, if you didn't attack with the creature this turn, sacrifice it, but I'm going to be attacking every turn because Etali, it's all about the triggers. So Sea Red, pretty good in the deck. Helm of the Host, this is outrageous. This came out last night at Firestorm Games. So Helm of the Host is an artifact card that costs 4. At the beginning of your combat on your turn, create a copy. That's a copy of equipped creature, except the token isn't legendary. If the equipped creature is legendary, that token gains haste. So basically I create another Etali that then triggers off attacking, and I get to exile another 2 cards. So that's just ridiculous. Helm of the Host. Any triggered ability, oh, great card, great card. But you can even copy other things as well. Copy like Dragon Mage if you wanted to. So you could just 2 Dragon Mages coming at you. You have to discard your hand twice. It's ridiculous. Lightning Greaves, again a bit of protection. Haste Enabler for Etali. Lightning Greaves is pretty much in every commander deck if you can afford it. If not, Swiftfoot Boots, which I think's in here as well. But get it in your deck, protect your commander, give it haste. Essential. Next card, a Praetor, and that is Urabrask the Hidden. So this gives all my creatures haste, and it makes every other creature my opponents control enter tapped. And it costs 3 colourless and 2 mountains, and it's just great because it puts me 1 step ahead at all times, because my creatures come in and can come in and swing, and my opponent's creatures can come in tapped, so they're pretty much always left open, which is great. So Urabrask is an awesome card in the deck. Another card, Mask of Arsin. I just wanted more equipment in here that gave Etali a bit of a buff and hexproof or untargetable effects. And this gives Etali +1, +2 and hexproof. Costs 2 to bring out and 3 to equip. So again, just another card that gives Etali a bit of a buff and gives him that untargetable status. What commander deck would be complete without a Sol Ring? Going to be reprinted in Commander 2019 as well, so get your hands on one. Great for mono red as well, because mono red doesn't have much ramp, so I think it needs to be in here. Then we've got a random mountain. I'll get to the mana base later. We've got an Iron Mirror. So this is just our nice little 2-drop artifact creature, 1/1 that adds a mountain to my mana pool. So again, nice little mana dork that's in there, early game 2-drop. As I was explaining earlier, Swiftfoot Boots, another equipment that allows my commander to have haste and hexproof. It's like a discount Lightning Greaves, but again, a very, very affordable card if you want to give your commander that extra protection and give him haste also, so he can swing in and exile cards from top of people's libraries, in my case. Another mountain, don't know why that's there. Next card is Star of Extinction. So this is a board wipe, basically, for creatures. So this costs 2 red and 5 others. Destroy target land as well. So if there's a pesky land out there that you want to get rid of, it destroys that. But then it deals 20 damage to each creature and each planeswalker. So goodbye board, basically. All planeswalkers and all creatures will die as a result of that, unless they're indestructible. I don't think there's any creatures really that have more than 20 power. Marit Lage would even die to that. Marit Lage would even be destroyed to a Star of Extinction, but, well, I don't know, because Marit Lage is indestructible. I'm talking trash. Next card. is Geo Surge. Mana spell, basically. So it costs 4 mountains to play. And then it adds 7 mountains to your mana pool, basically. And spend this mana only to cast artifact or creature spells, which I probably would do anyway, because I've got a lot of 7 drops in here. Etali is obviously a 6 drop, so this spell on turn 4 could enable me to play my commander. It could also enable me to play Lightning Greaves and equip it to the commander. It could also allow me to play Urabrask, Molten Primordial, Dragon Mage, everything that costs 7 or less. Geo Surge will allow me to play it on turn 4, which is really, really good. And any artifacts that I've got in my hand, I could also dump on that as well. It is only artifact and creature. It's a shame it's not add 7 red to your mana pool, period. But it's still really, really good in the deck. And again, mono red needs that ramp. Next card, speaking of ramp, is Hedron Archive. So again, a nice little 4-drop artifact that adds 2 to your mana pool. And again, you can get rid of it late game to draw cards, which is essential in mono red, because mono red doesn't have much card draw. So yeah, that's another good card in the deck. Anger, so this is a 2/2 creature that when he dies or when he's in the graveyard, he enables all my creatures to have haste, as long as I control a mountain. So in mono red, not going to be difficult to control a mountain in mono red. Berserker's Onslaught is an enchantment which gives all of my attacking creatures double strike. So again, I can hit for more damage. Etali is going to be given first strike and then normal strike. So again, it's protecting Etali against pesky creatures that might be in it to kill him. So Berserker's Onslaught is a good card. Another mountain. Next card is Reverberate. So again, I've got some big sorceries that you haven't seen yet, but this is going to copy them for 2 red. So copy target instant or sorcery spells. You may choose new targets for the copy. So great card for copying some big instants or sorceries that you haven't actually seen yet. So I'll get to them in a moment after I go past these mountains. Oh, hiccups, great timing. So yeah, hiccups. Okay, next card is Magus of the Wheel, whatever you want to call it. This is a 3-drop, costs 1 red and 2 others, and he is a human wizard, 3/3. And what you can do is you can pay 1 red and 1 other and sacrifice him to do a Dragon Mage, basically. So each player discards their hand and draws 7. So again, it just gives me gas if I've got nothing left, and it screws with people's hands, and forces them to rethink what their strategy is going to be, and just keep them on edge, because having that, if you're just sat there like, right, yeah, what have I got on my hand? And then Magus of the Wheel comes out and you're like, oh, my plan's definitely changed. It's just giving that vibe to your opponent that they just do not know what's going to happen. This is such a chaosy deck, and that's what I love about it. People's strategies just go out the window in this deck, and that's why I love it so much. It's just awesome. Again, one of my favourite decks at the moment is this guy, for sure. He's popped off every time I've played him so far. Next card is another mana enabler. Mana Geyser in a 4-player game is outrageous. So it can give you tons of mana. It does cost 5, so it costs 3 colourless and 2 red, and it adds red to your mana pool for each tapped land your opponents control. But if you're playing a commander game, normally 4-player, that's a good return of investment, I think. People are going to be using all their lands to play their big stuff in commander games, and there's going to be a lot of tapped lands on the field by the time it comes back around to your turn, unless they've got a Seedborn Muse or something like that. But odds are you're going to get a lot of mana off that card, and it can enable a lot of things in Etali. Big sorcery, Seize the Day. Very, very fond of this card because it's an Odyssey card, which is that was the time that I was playing quite a lot in my younger days. So this costs 3 colourless and 1 red. It's a sorcery, untap target creature. After this phase, there is an additional combat phase, followed by an additional main phase, and it has flashback. So it's two combats basically on one card that you get for free. Well, not for free, but so you play this, you get another combat, goes to the graveyard. You can play it again on the same turn and get another combat. So you could potentially be exiling 3 cards from each person, including you. So that's a total of 12 cards that you could potentially play for free off of other people's decks, which is just outrageous. It's just stupid, ridiculous. It's better than taking an extra turn. Another haste enabler, Fervor. This just straight out comes out for 3 mana, 1 red and 2 others. Creatures you control have haste. I've got a lot of haste enablers in here, so maybe leave a comment again in the section below as to what card you think should come out of the deck in favour of the one that I'm getting later. So you'll see that later, the one I'm getting. But yeah, please leave a comment as to what you think might need to come out of this. Next card is Charm Breaker Devils. I just like this card because it looks cool. I love devils and demons and what have you, but this card costs 6 to bring out, 1 red and 5 others. He's a 4/4. So, okay, stat block. But at the beginning of your upkeep, return an instant or sorcery card at random from your graveyard to your hand. So all those big, well, the big instants and sorceries that you've seen so far, not so much, but it will allow me to get those back into my hand at random. I know it says at random, but still, a lot of the instants and sorceries in this deck will do the same thing. They'll copy spells, they'll give me extra combats, but a lot of things, they'll give me mana. But a lot of this instants and sorceries that I'm getting back will enable Etali to swing in and do more triggers, basically. So Charmbreaker Devils will give me those instants and sorceries back every single turn. Next card is a nice little artifact called Hazaret's Monument. So this is a 3-drop artifact. Red creature spells cost 1 less, so that's good. Good ramp, essentially. And whenever you cast a creature spell, I may loot. So I may discard a card to draw a card. So again, another good card for drawing cards in red, mono red. So we got another mountain. Another must include for any mono deck that doesn't have much access to ramp is Burnished Heart. This is a 3-drop artifact creature, basically a more expensive version of explosive vegetation. So you can pay 6 on the turn that you get him out, and sacrifice him to search your library for up to 2 basic lands, put him onto battlefield tapped. So it's basically like an explosive vegetation, but in any colour. So that's probably why it's a little bit more expensive. But again, it's a must include for white, red, black, anything that doesn't have that much access to go fetch your lands and put them onto the battlefield type effect. So very, very good in mono red especially. Next one is Seething Song. So this costs 1 red and 2 others, and it adds 5 red to my mana pool. It's not like Geosurge where I have to spend it on creatures or artifacts. I can spend it on anything. So on turn 3, I can do a 5 mana play basically. So that's awesome. This is a ridiculous card. Heartless Hitsuga. Heartless Hitsuga. So he's an Ogre Shaman, legendary creature. So he could be a commander if you wanted to build off of him, which is interesting. I'd love to see what people are brewing with this guy. Might have to have a look on EDH Rec later as well for the Heartless Hitsuga, because he's just ridiculous. He costs 2 red and 3 others. Ogre Shaman, 4/3, and tap. Heartless Hitsuga deals to each player damage equal to half that player's life, rounded down. So this just halves everyone's life every single turn. Doesn't matter if they're attacking, blocking, or what have you. It's halving the player's life every single turn just by tapping it. So it's absolutely outrageous. Outrageous card. Kamigawa's a great set. I want to get for this deck. I want to get a full set of Kamigawa red mountain lands with different artwork, but I haven't actually got around to doing that yet, and potentially all in foil as well. But any cards that you like the look of, go and check out our Big Orbit Cards affiliate link, and if they're in stock, they're very, very cheap. If they're not, then just go on to other card sites. But if you buy your cards on Big Orbit Cards, you'll help support us directly with any purchase, whether that's Magic Gathering, Pokemon, Card Fight, anything really. So go and have a look at that if you want to have bulk out your deck with stuff. Their stock's quite low, but when you do find a good bargain, it's good. Next card is Hellkite Charger. The only dragon. No, it's not. I'm talking trash. So Hellkite Charger costs 6 to bring out, 2 reds and 4 others. 5/5 Flying Haste. Rorich Bladewing, nostalgia. Well, he's a 6/5 Flying Haste, isn't he? Move on. Whenever he attacks, I may pay 7, so 2 red and 5 others. If you do, untap all attacking creatures, and after this phase, there's additional combat phase. So again, it's enabling Etali to attack again. It's just one of the main themes of this deck. Is just extra combats. Next card is a Snapcaster. No, it's not. Snapcaster Mage in red. Maybe in the future, who knows. This is a dual caster mage, so he costs 1 colourless and 2 red, and he's a 2/2 flash, so So you can flash him in at any time to block something, but when you flash him in, when he enters the battlefield, copy target instant or sorcery spell, you may choose new targets for the copy. So you can flash him in, block something if you need, and then you can copy an instant or sorcery spell. Copy target instant or sorcery spell, you may choose new targets. So you can steal someone else's spell and use it against another opponent as well, which is great. So you can flash something in if an Anguished Unmaking is coming your way. You can flash this guy in, grab that Anguished Unmaking that's there on the stack, and then redirect it at someone else out of pure spite for doing that in the first place. And again, it messes with your opponents. They're like, what the f***? They're using their own stuff against me. Absolutely outrageous. Next card is a Mind Stone, an old version. What was it, Weatherlight? There's a lot of Weatherlight reprints coming out as well in Commander 2019, which is great, which is a bit coincidental. But this is a 2-drop artifact and taps to add 1 to your mana pool, colourless, and then you can pay 1 and sacrifice it to draw a card. So again, a little bit of card draw, little mana rock early game, can't go wrong. Aggravated Assault, this is an enchantment, costs 1 red and 2 others, and then you can pay 2 red and 3 others to untap all creatures you control. After this phase, there is an additional combat phase followed by an additional main phase. Play this ability only at any time you can play a sorcery. So again, you'll be playing that at the start of your turn, saying, right, after this phase there's going to be another combat phase, deal with it, and they're just going to have to sit back and watch the mayhem. Here come the big sorceries now, by the looks of it, yeah. So first one is Savage Beating. This is outrageous. This costs 2 red and 3 others. It's an instant, sorry, not even a sorcery, instant. But it says play Savage Beating only during your turn and only during combat. So it's basically a massive combat trick, basically a Savage Beating. Choose 1. Creatures you control gain double strike until end of turn, or untap all creatures you control, and after this main phase there is additional combat phase, but you can also entwine them both. So you can give all of your creatures double strike until end of turn. That's ridiculous. Never read that before. So on both combats, if you entwine this, they're going to attack with double strike twice. That's outrageous. Absolutely outrageous. Savage Beating is quite an expensive card though, so luckily I have one in my collection for a while, back in Darksteel. Next one is Fury of the Horde. Again, a massive sorcery. Costs 2 red and 5 others. You may exile 2 red cards from your hand rather than pay its mana cost as well, which is also quite useful if you're running low on mana or you just want to try and get rid of some cards to play it for free. Untap all creatures that attack this turn. After this main phase, there is additional combat phase followed by an additional main phase. Again, just enabling Etali, enabling it to do ridiculous things. Next card is a Paladin Myr. This is basically a Worn Power Stone creature. So it costs 3 to bring out, adds 2 to your mana pool, and it's a 2/2. So it's basically a Worn Power Stone with a body, which is quite cool. Again, mono red ramp. Next card is more permanent removal in red. It's quite finicky, but this is Steel Hellkite. This is a 5/5 flying dragon, which costs 6 to bring out, and you can give him +1/+0 for the expense of 2 mana. So you can pump loads of mana into him to give him +1/+0, and then you can pay X and destroy each non-land permanent with converted mana cost X whose controller was dealt damage by Steel Hellkite this turn. Activate this ability only once each turn. So you can't, unfortunately, shenanigans it with extra combats, so you can't destroy loads of permanents on extra combats. You can only do it once, so you have to choose wisely what you're getting rid of. But again, it's a permanent removal on a artifact creature, and it's a 5/5 flying dragon, so it's got evasion, it's got you can block flyers, so a good little utility card in mono red, and again permanent removal. Next card is Neheb, Dread Horde Champion, and this is from War of the Spark recently. So this costs 2 red and 2 others. He's a 5/4 trample, and whenever he deals combat damage to a player or planeswalker, you may discard any number of cards. If you do, draw that many cards and add that much red mana into end of turn, and you don't lose that mana as the phases and steps end. So if he attacks and some damage goes through, you can discard 3 cards, you can draw 3 cards and add 3 red mana to your mana pool that does not phase out. So again, awesome card for looting for what you need, getting the mana and enabling for future turns, and again just a 5/4 trample for 4 mana. Awesome card, awesome include, and it gives you that gas that you need to feed Etali with. Next card is Insurrection. This is outrageous. This is a game winner, potentially, if there's a lot of creatures out. Costs 3 red and 5 others. Untap all creatures and gain control of them until end of turn, and they gain haste. That's ridiculous. Madness. Mountain. This is a card that could come out, potentially. Captivating Crew. So this is a Ixalan card. Costs 1 mountain and 3 others. 4/3 human pirate. And then you can pay 3 and 1 red and gain control of target creature and opponent controls until end of turn. It gains haste. Activate this ability only time you could activate a sorcery. So you could bring this guy out. He can't act straight away unless he's got haste, which obviously has a lot of haste enablers in this deck. But he can just steal other people's creatures and use them against them. So again, stealing other people's stuff, messing around with people's plans. Another good card. Haven't really utilised it yet. Haven't played it. Haven't really got to activate its ability, but it's in there. So we'll see what happens in future games, really, whether I use it or not. Next card is Bloodsworn Steward. This is a great card. This is a 4/4 flying creature, vampire, costs 4 to bring out, 2 red and 2 others. And commander creatures you control have +2/+2 in haste. So this basically makes Etali an 8/8 haste. So great card for giving Etali haste and making him stronger as well. Wildfire Eternal. This is quite a cool card. I saw it and I thought, yeah, why not? I'll put it in here. It's quite cool. So this is a 1/4 zombie jackal cleric, costs 4 mana, 1 red and 3 others. It has afflict 4, so whenever this creature becomes blocked, a defending player loses 4 life. And whenever he attacks and isn't blocked, you may cast an instant or sorcery card from your hand without paying its mana cost. So they have to then they have to decide really whether it's worth me casting a card out of my hand or taking 4 damage because of its afflict. So again, it's messing with your opponent's strategy, and they're deciding what's the lesser of 2 evils. Do I want to take 4 damage from the afflict, or do I want to let him cast an extra card for free? Normally it's the afflict. Normally they're happy to block it. Another big sorcery, Relentless Assault. Untap all creatures that attack this turn. After this phase, there is additional combat phase followed by additional main phase. So again, another extra combats card that costs 4, which is really good for that sort of ability. 2 red and 2 others. Again, enabling Etali to exile loads of cards and give me loads of cards from my opponents. More equipment for Etali. Cloak and Dagger. This is a little equipment that costs 2. Tribal Artifact, Rogue equipment. So a big dinosaur can apparently wear a bit of cloak and wield a dagger, but there you go. Equipped creature gets +2/+0 and has Shroud. Whenever a rogue creature comes into play, you may attach Cloak and Dagger to it, which I probably will never use, but there you go. Equip cost of 3. So I probably don't need this in here because I've already got Swiftfoot Boots, Mask of Avacyn, and I've also got Lightning Greaves in here. So maybe this could come out potentially, but I'd just like to give my commander Shroud or Hexproof so he can't be removed, and people have to use not their single target removal, but their board wipes just to get rid of Etali. So that's why I like to have a lot of equipment in there that gives my commander Shroud or Hexproof. Next card is absolutely fantastic, and that's Neheb the Eternal. Great commander as well if you want to run him as a commander, but he costs 2 red and 3 others. He's a 4/6, afflict 3. And at the beginning of your post-combat main phase, add red to your mana pool for each 1 life your opponents have lost this turn. So there was a game where Neheb was out and Heartless Hitsugu was out. And Heartless Hitsugu, when he taps, he deals damage equal to that player's life, halved, rounded down, I think, if I remember rightly. But in a lot of cases, that's in surplus of 10 life, they're losing to Heartless Hitsugu, and that's adding then 10 mana to my mana pool, which I can then use to cast like an extra combat card or something like that, or an extra main phase card, which will then give me more mana from this, and it just storms off. And that's what I love about Neheb, is that if people are losing life, they're going to be losing life because he's got afflict anyway. So even if he's not blocked, they're going to lose life. Even if he's blocked, they're going to lose life, and I'm going to gain that mana. He's just great. I've had a great experience with Neheb in this deck, so he's awesome. Next card, another X damager, and that's Blaze. A bit of nostalgic value because I used to use this card all the time. Look at that. What is that? 9th edition. Look at that white border, 9th edition. Yeah, very nostalgic card for me. Just basically X damage to any target with the Oracle text these days. 1 red and X others. X damage to any target. Again, bit of removal, bit of blaze to the face, Planeswalker hate. That's what X is good at. And I think that's pretty much the... No, it's not. Still got another card in there somewhere. Here we are. Next one is World at War. This is outrageous. This costs 3 colourless and 2 mountains. After the first post-combat main phase, this turn, there's an additional combat phase followed by additional main phase. At the beginning of that combat, untap all creatures that attack this turn, and it has rebound. So I'm going to cast that again on my next turn. So basically, for the next 2 turns, I get 2 combats. So that's just outrageous. And if I copy that, I'm going to get 4 combats in 2 turns, which is just stupid. Then what else we got? So we got all these lands, which I'll go into in a moment. Any more cards in here? Any more cards? Any more cards? No. So that's all the cards in the Etali deck. All the creatures, sorceries, artifacts, and non-land cards in the Etali deck. Now, the card that I'm adding to this deck is Finale of Promise, which I'll just get up now because I can't remember what it is. Finale of Promise. Yeah. So Finale of Promise costs 2 red and X. And you may cast up to 1 target instant and or up to 1 target sorcery card from your graveyard each with converted mana cost X or less without paying the mana cost. So I can basically pay, let's say I pumped 7 mana into this. I can get an instant and sorcery card from my graveyard and play those cards out of the graveyard. So it basically gives an instant and sorcery card flashback, which is great. But the ridiculous thing about this is, obviously, if you cast a card that way, it's exiled instead. So if you use a card with Finale of Promise, but if you bring it back to be played again, it's exiled instead. But if X is 10 or more, copy each of those spells twice. You may choose new targets for the copies. That's just stupid. It's outrageous. I could have 6 combats in 1 turn. That's just stupid. So it needs to go in there. It needs to go in there. I haven't got it yet, but it is a sorcery, so I will be getting it. War of the Spark, I think it's about £5 or so on Liliana Market at the moment. So I'm just waiting for a couple of my cards to be sold on there. I sold a Soul Ring the other day, and I'm waiting for that money to go into the account. Waiting for the person to click that it's been delivered, because I sent it raw mail first time delivery, so I'm waiting for that to be delivered. When that's delivered into my account, I'm going to buy Finale of Promise off whoever's the cheapest person on there. So if you're watching this video now and you've got a Finale of Promise, make sure it's cheap, and it's most likely going to be bought by me, Pass the Turn Aaron, on the Liliana Market. But Finale of Promise is going to be going in the deck. So if you think there's a card in this massive list of cards I just reeled out to you that needs to be removed as a result of this going in instead, let me know as to what you think that card should be removed is, because I'm surprised this deck functions, because I'm a deck builder, it really works really well, and I'm really happy that I built it. I mean, I'm not sure what sort of gave me the idea to run an Etali deck. I think at the time I was just going through all my rares and just seeing what legendary creatures I had, because I'm just so into Commander. It's just the best format ever for Magic the Gathering. You can just play pretty much any card out of your collection. Singleton format as well, so the strategy is a lot different. It's a lot more casual, a lot more drawn out, a lot more political, social. All the aspects of Commander just trump any sort of other format for me. Unfortunately, I mean, you may disagree. You may like the one-on-one combats, multiple cards, and all that sort of stuff. But I definitely don't. It's not my bag at all. I'm looking at maybe making an Oathbreaker deck at some point as well. But still waiting for the other guys in the meta to see if they're interested in doing that before I even invest my time or effort into it. But yeah, so let's get on to land base very quickly. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, 2, 3, 4. 34 mountains in the deck, and then 4 special lands. So there's 38 lands in the deck, and 4 special lands. So the first special land is Flamekin Village. So this enters the battlefield tapped unless I reveal an elemental. I don't think I have any elementals in the deck, but this is just in there because it gives target creature haste until end of turn. And it's just great. A haste enabler on a land, so auto include in this deck. Rogue's Passage, again, it's more protection for Etali, so I can just make Etali go in the Rogue Passage, and there's no danger of him then getting blocked or killed by anything, so that's why that's in there. It's just really protection for Etali, and it's great for getting commander damage through the back door when you're swinging in for 6. So again, completely forgot about commander damage, but yeah, Rogue's Passage is mainly in there to protect Etali. I completely forgot about commander damage. Yeah, it's another vital way and good way of winning a game if you're using extra combats, especially to smash in commander damage again and again and again. Rogue's Passage is going to enable you to potentially win the game from commander damage. So there you go. Awesome. Didn't even think of that before. Next card is Hanweir Battlements. I don't actually use the card that it transforms into, but I'll just use it for the land, basically. It's a forward as well, so it looks very nice. It's a program, actually, from Eldritch Moon. I think it's Eldritch Moon. But yeah, so it taps to add 1 colour spell to your mana pool, and you can tap red and tap it to target creature gains haste until end of turn. And then obviously, if you own Hanweir Battlements and Hanweir Garrison, you can exile them and transform it, but I don't own both. So, but yeah, so that's another haste enabler on a land, which is great. And then finally, we got Shinka, the Blood-Soaked Keep, legendary land from Kamigawa set. Adds red to mana pool, so it's basically a mountain. But I can tap it and tap it and pay a red to give Etali first strike instead of turn. So again, just giving Etali a bit of protection on a land is invaluable to the deck, and that's why it's in there. I was going to get Valakut as well, the Molten Keep, for this deck as well, because that would have some serious value. But it is also a serious value card. So how much is it on the Liliana market right now? Let's have a look. Valakut, the Molten Keep. See who's selling it for cheap right now. Vala. Molten Pinnacle, sorry. £10. £10 for a land. So it enters the battlefield taps. Whenever a mountain enters the battlefield under your control, if you control at least 5 of the mountains, you may have it deal 3 damage to a creature or player. So it's basically a lightning bolt. There's modern decks built on this. But I'll probably get it at some point because it's just value, really, and it taps to add red, and it's lightning bolts late in the game when I've got loads of mountains out, which is great for removing planeswalkers or pesky creatures that are disrupting the game. But again, it's a £10 land, so it's pretty ridiculous. But this, I've invested quite a lot into this deck. I mean, a lot of these cards are quite expensive, but again, I just love it so much. You know, it's like crack cocaine. Not that I know what that's like, but yeah, I mean it's good. When you get into Magic the Gathering, you get the bug, and you end up spending a lot of your money on Magic. I hope my missus is not watching this, or my grandparents for that matter, because I'm living in their house still at the moment. But Liliana Market's great. Have a look at Liliana Market, because you can sell your cards on there, and then you can use the balance that you accrue to buy more cards off of other people. So it's basically like trading your cards that you don't want for cards that you do want. So again, it's not really spending money. It's trading cards online. If you're looking to build decks with stuff that you don't use, get your cards on there, sell them, get the money, get the cards that you want. There's always going to be stock on Liliana Market because it's for Magic players, by Magic players. So have a look if you haven't done so already. I'll link my account that the cards I'm selling in the description box below. I'll also give you a link to Big Orbit cards in the description box below, because any cards you buy off there using our affiliate link will help support us directly in the cards that we want to get and the cards that you might want to see in play. And yeah, so thank you very much for tuning into this Deck Tech episode for Etali Primal Storm. And hopefully you'll see it in action soon. Moving out in 2 weeks, so you're going to be seeing a lot more gameplay videos for Magic the Gathering. Haven't really had the time or the space to do it recently, which is why there's a lot more videos of this sort of format coming out. But hopefully you're still enjoying the channel. Please like and subscribe, share with friends if you think there's something that they'd like. But yeah, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.